welcome back to the Film Realcast. I'm Stuart, I am your host. We are back in the barn this time. We've left the dojo of the Cobra Kai. We're in Farmington. It's episode 10, season 1 of The Shield. Okay, we get going with the guys on a sting operation. They're at a strip bar. This is something Shane's quite natural to. You can see he's natural to it. He really enjoys it. This is the environment he loves. Cheap women. Women will do anything. Women with no morals. A Shane's cup of tea. Whereas we learn that Ronnie has got no way with the women. His chat-up lines is talking about his golf handicap to a stripper. She's a guarantee she doesn't want to know about golf handicaps. The idea is to find out which one of the strippers is taking the guys outside the back, smacking them on the head and taking their wallet. Shane tags out a young girl called Tulips. He believes it's the real thing. He has to have sex with her. Shane believes it anyway, but he does. Whilst he's having sex with her, he gets smacked on the head, sucker punched as he puts it, and he's to the floor, and Lem comes to the rescue along with Ronnie. And Vic isn't there, and we learn why Vic isn't there. Vic gets a call from Connie. If you remember Connie, she's the prostitute, stroke heroin addict, stroke cocaine addict, stroke everything else addict, with a baby. And her mum has had a stroke and had a heart attack, and she's dropped dead in a shop. This, of course, has caused Connie to go right off the rails, go on a massive bender, and she's just not a fit mother. No matter how much she wants to be, she's not a fit mother. So Vic, bless him, in the good side of Vic has many sides, the evil side, devious, good, like the Samaritan, the very cunning, the liar, all of these sides Vic has, and you never know which Vic you're going to get. But with Connie, and he explains that he finds her years ago in a drug house where she's just off her face, and he decides to get her clean to help her, and that's why he's got that kind of allegiance. You always wonder why he goes the extra mile with Connie. It's because he found her in a really bad way and he wants to help her. So he not kind of locks her up into a certain extent where she can go cold turkey, and all of the guys from the strike team have to do a shift to try and get her clean because she's got the baby, which I think is called Brian. So she wants to look after it. She needs to be a responsible mum because her mum's just died. So the idea of that is instant cold turkey, which is never a good idea. And we learn that she doesn't really want to quit. And it's not as easy as everyone thinks. With a few days of just not taking any drugs, she's not going to be clean. She's an addict. She needs more help. Okay, next you see Julian and Danny. And they're down an alley and they've caught some guy. And his name's Sean Taylor. And if you remember that Dutch had this theory of a serial killer going around killing prostitutes, and no one took him serious. People thought that he did strike, he missed his opportunity. There was Sally, who was the victim, the Asian girl. So this guy's been caught masturbating in an alley by Danny and Julian, and it's an alley close to where some of the murders occurred, and Dutch believes that this guy is the killer, gone back to his old ground, and he's going over old memories of the kill, and is obviously pleasuring himself whilst doing it. Dutch isn't taken serious because he's a joke to everyone else in the barn. But Dutch sticks to his guns, and he believes this guy, Sean Taylor, is the killer. Dutch really believes that he's onto something, but Claudette doesn't. He's telling her the evidence that his profile fits. Someone who's clean, someone who's very clever, someone who's a traveller, someone who can't be traced. But every time she's shutting him down, saying there's no evidence. And I don't know what your thoughts are, but whether she's saying no, there's no evidence because she hasn't thought it first, this idea, or whether she genuinely doesn't believe that Dutch is right. It's really not known, but she does shut him down a hell of a lot, and Dutch's ideas as to this guy, Sean, being the serial killer seem pretty true, they seem pretty concrete, but she dismisses him. And it's not until the very end that she starts to get on board with his ideas. But Dutch is sure this guy is their serial killer. And just like in Cobra Kai, we love foreshadow. And we get foreshadow. There's a reporter who's given free access to go around the barn and talk to everyone about what it's like there, the allegations of police brutality, corruption. And she corners Aceveda whilst in the company of Vic. And when she's not getting the story that she wants, she says to Aceveda, what about when you were 21 years old and you were accused of raping another student at university? And this is said right in front of Vic. And you don't disclose things like this in front of Vic. It's all ammunition they could possibly use later on. And Aceveda admits to doing, not raping her, but being with her. And he actually tells Aurora, his wife, of the incident in case it comes out that he was with someone. And she was quite kinky and she wanted to be tied up and burnt with candle wax. And then it got too far of a strangulation and he said no. And due to that, she accused him of rape. And he's worried about this secret coming out because he wants to run for city council and he can't if these scandals are coming out. But most of all, this was said in front of Vic. And Vic just won't forget it. And possibly, this may be used later on. Possibly, she could be in the episodes later on. But just remember. So Danny and Julian are booking a transvestite called Jasmine into the cells. And whilst they're doing that, Danny's undoing the handcuffs and Julian just loses focus. And it's enough time for Danny to be assaulted and punched by this transvestite and bitten. Julian comes along and gives him a massive pounding with his truncheon, for want of a better word. That doesn't sound right. I could have put that a lot better. But he uses his police baton, there you go, rather than Julian gets out his truncheon and smashes her, Jasmine, so hard, several times over. Obviously, Danny's worried that she could contract AIDS through this bite. The chances are quite small, but back in 2002, we didn't really know much about AIDS and how you could contract it. But she's really worried. Julian's very upset, and everyone else in the barn is really angry. And some of the officers feel that a message needs to be sent out that these officers, their colleagues, everyone at the barn can't be assaulted by random members of the public, and there's got to be some kind of payback. And they do what they call a blanket party. And they put the offer out for Julian. Danny wants nothing to do with it, but Julian's a bit curious. And at this time, a lot of officers are commenting with regards to Jasmine's sexuality about being gay. And they're doing that to Julian. And if you remember, at this time, Julian is struggling with his own sexuality. Remember, him and Thomas are both in a relationship. Something that Julian is disgusted with. And there's my dog. And there's my dog. She wants to be on there as well. So, this isn't something I actually prepared for, but this is Lucy. So, Julian is obviously in a relationship with Thomas. He's trying to hide that relationship, the embarrassment. He himself is a very religious man and feels quite dirty about it. He's ashamed that he's in a relationship and he's in denial. So when his comments are being made about the sexuality and comments like queers and things like that, Julian is disgusted. And I think he's not disgusted as much so with Jasmine of what's happened. He's more disgusted with himself, and that these comments that his colleagues are making, they'd be making about him should they realise that he's gay. And it's the embarrassment and the kind of self-loathing that he's got about himself, which he's reflecting onto Jasmine. Because remember, he keeps denying that he's gay even after he leaves Thomas's address and they've had sex all night, that he then denies that he's gay, or he calls it a disease. He won't admit to himself that it is his way of life, it's his choice, it's his free choice if he wants to be gay. But he is in denial about that, and it's really interesting. That does pay off later on in the episode. So Dutch goes to see Sean at his place of work, and where he works conveniently is in a garage that fits car radios. Due to this, the place is really spotlessly clean. Remember that he's all about leaving no trace evidence at the crime scenes. And he fits radio, so he's got access to other people's cars. And he can go out in his people's cars and he can go and commit the crimes. So at the moment, it's ticking all the boxes, potentially to be our serial killer. So Tulips has been arrested, and as you can see from the clothes that she's wearing, she's quite a happy-go-lucky kind of girl. This is Shane's ideal woman. Shane has fallen for her, possibly because of the way she looks. As you can see, she's a very attractive woman. She's blaming her friend for having the idea of assaulting people once they come out of the strip club. She's blaming him. He's in an interview room next door, blaming her. Sadly for him, he's not quite as good looking as Tulips is, so he's got no chance. Both Lem and Shane come out of the interview both of them think they've cracked it, saying, yep, she's saying that he did it, he's saying that she did it. They're no further off. It's purely on looks that's winning Tulips over. Tulips is really clever. She decides, and also Shane decides, that probably a good way of having an interview is having sex. So Shane has sex with Tulips in the interview room. She uses this as leverage for the fact that I can prove that you've had sex with me, you are going to go to prison. If you don't get me off this crime, I'm going to tell everyone you had sex with me. You try explaining that. Shane, again, not for the first time, puts himself in a predicament that he's got no control over. This is something he does throughout this series, to the extremes where it costs someone their lives, a few people their lives. So Shane has got himself in trouble. So in the end, she gets away with it. She walks. Unlucky for the boyfriend, who's not wearing a bikini top, who's not got a nice set of breasts, he goes to prison. So with Sean in interview, there's a really good bit where Sean writes on the board, which is in the interview room, thoughts with Dutch. He's trying to toy with Dutch. He writes about Dutch being a loner, that no one respected him, that people took the piss out of him, that he was bullied, that he does this for a feeling of self-importance, that he couldn't make it in uniform. And to be honest, it's a lot of the points that other colleagues in the barn take the piss out of Dutch about. But Dutch is really good. He doesn't kind of take the bait of what Sean's saying, and that's what Sean wants. And he says, yeah, I'm all those things, but I've got a girlfriend. He sounds a bit like Alan Partridge.
I've got a girlfriend.
And he says, I've got a girlfriend, and I'm good at my job, and she's really hot. So you can say those things, and it doesn't bother me. And it's great, because not only has Dutch not taken the bait, but he's also, unbeknown to him, got an audience of people. Shane's watching him, Lem's watching him, Vic's watching him, and they've got loads of uniformed officers there. And the reason why they're watching him, because initially when Dutch was trying to get burnt, or going to be burnt by Sean, that Shane thought it'd be funny to call everyone in to watch Dutch crash. But in fact what he's done is turn it around, and now Dutch has got an audience of people to see just how good he is. So when they go back in the interview room, Dutch tells Sean that we've been stalling you. We've got a warrant to search your place of work, to search your own address, which he says you won't find anything, and your aunt's place. That throws him a bit. And he says, do you know what we found? He says, we found 2 bodies underneath your porch. He says, that's not too bad for someone who was picked on, who was a bully, who's a loser, who can't get ahead in life. He goes, that's not too bad. I've got 2 bodies. And then Sean crumbles. And then he says, that's nothing. I've killed over 20 people. I think about 26 people in total that he admits to killing. He's a huge serial killer. He does this in front of everyone. He admits in front of all of the uniform people, all of the strike team. And it's a brilliant moment that Dutch thoroughly deserves. He's always stuck to the theory that there is a serial killer, and no one's believed him, or no one's given the time to investigate. And he single-handedly, because Claudette doesn't really back him up. She sticks with him, but she doesn't back him up. But he's caught this serial killer, and even when he admits to killing so many people, Dutch doesn't come over as shocked or surprised. He doesn't give him any respect whatsoever. He says, you think you're clever, but you're not. Because you're the one who's admitted everything. You're trying to be special by saying you killed that many people. But someone like me, someone you've already called a loser, has caught you. So you're not special. And it's a brilliant moment for Dutch to be a hero, to get that recognition that he's an amazing detective. And everyone claps when he comes out of the office. And Vic walks up to him, shakes his hand, and says, you've done an amazing job. And it's a brilliant moment for Dutch. So unbeknown to Vic, Connie has escaped from Ronnie, who's looking after her. She's taken some money from his wallet, and she has got off her tits on drugs. She walks into the barn at the end, and she's just off her face on drugs. They even tried to give her baby, and she says, that baby isn't mine. I'm not a fit mum. It needs a mum, and it isn't mine. It's a really sad moment. Vic has done everything he can to help her, and she's just walked away. She's off her face. So that baby will go into care, and she's lost out, and she is back on the drugs. So the van is about to take Jasmine to County. Just before she goes, they have their blanket party.
There you go.
Come on, damn it! No! No!
She's your partner, man.
No! Come on! No! No!
Shut up.
Again, this is Julian beating himself to a certain extent, because this is everything Julian doesn't want to be. He despises this. Remember, he's a very religious man. He's a very proud man, and he's homosexual. He hates that about himself. And because he's got a homosexual in front of him and people are speaking so dirty, he gives Jasmine an absolute belting. And I think, honestly, that he would have killed him had he not been pulled away by his two colleagues. So it ends with, obviously, Dutch is the hero of the moment, the hero of the hour. He's got that serial killer. He leaves the Nick and he sits in his car after everyone said well done, and he starts crying. And it's not known, and let me know your thoughts on this, it's not known if he's crying because everything that Taylor said was right about him being a loser, which I think it is to a certain extent, or that he's so happy he caught a serial killer, or that he was so worried that he put everything on the line, telling everyone that this guy's a serial killer, and it's just the offloading, the pressure, the relief that he's actually right, and that it's his kind of reputation, because he's still a very proud man despite what people say. But he bursts into tears, and it can be looked at so many different ways. But I think it's because this guy was right about Dutch, and that he is a joke, and that he possibly knows, despite catching this serial killer, that will be yesterday's news, and tomorrow, as soon as Dutch does something wrong, that they'll be over him and he'll start taking the piss out of him again. But I honestly don't know what it was, but let me know your thoughts as to what it was that made Dutch burst into tears in the car. It'd be really good to know from your point of view. Okay, so that is episode 10, season 1 of The Shield. Let me know your thoughts on that episode, what was good and what was bad about it. For me, it's really, really flying, and Dutch finally got his serial killer. I'm so pleased for Dutch that he got that recognition. Shane clearly demonstrates he thinks with one part of his body, and we all know what part that is. And again, that's the part that further on down the line, into a few seasons more, that gets himself in trouble and gets people killed. So, and Connie is back on the drugs again. Could that lead to problems? Is that going to have an effect on Vic? Because Vic goes out the way to actually help her, putting himself at risk. But let us know your thoughts on this. Also, we've got Cobra Kai. I've just finished doing season 1 of Cobra Kai. So you can click on the links to Cobra Kai and you can watch that from the very beginning of all of season 1. My reaction, my reviews about that. I've loved that episode. And also, we've got The Meg, which has just come out now, an audio podcast. And it's that one there. It's the Film Reel Cast. Go on any good podcast format and you can see that. And you can click on subscribe and you won't miss an episode. But again, subscribe to this channel, comment on this channel, follow me on Facebook and on Twitter as well, and it'll be great to chat to you. Anyway, that's been The Shield. That's episode 10. We're coming to the end. I think there's 2 more episodes. Then we've done season 1 of The Shield. I hope you've enjoyed this. Like it, leave feedback. I'm Stuart. This is the Film Reel Cast, and thank you for watching.